Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome on in to another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. It is Wednesday, December 10th. This is episode 210, and it's time for the Waiver Wire Show. In this show, we will begin to prepare for Week 15. We'll start off with some player news. We'll take a glance at some of our waiver wire targets. We will feel the rage in this week's Mike Rant, and we'll see who won the Showcase Showdown for our final Wingman Jam of the season. And then we'll preview the first 8 games of the Week 15 slate. But before we get any further along, I'd like to make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get right into it. Let's get into some player news. All right, we have a light list of news for you guys today. It's a little early in the week, but nonetheless, Jerome Ford, Cleveland Browns running back, was placed on the IR with a shoulder injury. Means he will be done for the rest of the regular season. DK Metcalf had one of his best games of the season last week. However, he had to stay overnight in a Baltimore hospital as he was dealing with some stomach pains. Mike Tomlin said, however, that DK Metcalf is trending in the right direction, and they don't believe that he will miss any time at all. All right, Daniel Jones was placed on the IR with a torn Achilles.
Oh, no!
Unfortunately, Dr. Jones is out for the rest of the year.
Hey, lady, you call him Dr. Jones.
On the other side of this here, we have Riley Leonard, who filled in last week after he left the game, who you would expect to take Jones's place. However, he's dealing with a knee injury himself that has him labeled as week to week, and Anthony Richardson is still on the IR and not ready to return, which means the wildest news of the early part of this week is Phillip Rivers has been pulled out of retirement to join the Colts, and last report was by Ian Rappaport was there's a real chance Phillip Rivers may start in Week 15. Mike Evans got on the field in a limited capacity for Tuesday's practice, and he's hoping to return to the lineup for the team's Thursday night game against the Falcons. Another receiver in that same game, Drake London, has yet to practice this week and looking like he may miss his 4th consecutive game. Although that's not in stone yet, it's just not trending in the right direction. And my co-host Bernie called it. He said he mentioned that T. Higgins looked like he got a little knocked out with a concussion here, although he did finish the game. He, however, is now in the concussion protocol, and it is likely that he will miss this game as it's the 2nd concussion in the last 3 weeks here. And Trey Benson will need to be activated from the IR later today by 4 p.m., where his season will be over. Devon the Man Achane is dealing with sore ribs. He's expected to be limited or even miss some practice time this week, but with Miami Dolphins playing on Monday night, they do have a little extra time to recover, and there's a pretty good chance he won't miss any time at all, as they are in playoff mode, win at all costs. If Devon Achane does miss any time, however, Jalen Wright would be the handcuff that we prefer to pick up. And Tyron Tracy, who left the game in Week 13 with a hip injury, says he's fine and doesn't expect to miss any time. Although, again, we'll check on those practice reports as we get further into the week. All right, guys, now it's time to get into this week's Waiver Wire Targets. Wrong button.
Wingman Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Target.
All right, starting off with our quarterbacks. Not a great list again, guys, as late in the year here. Marcus Mariota, it's not been determined yet if Jaden Daniels is going to play this week or not. He is said to be sore with that dislocated elbow that he played through last week. So I don't know if he's going to get back on the field. He probably shouldn't. If that's the case, we got Marcus Mariota on the list here playing against the New York Giants this week. Tyrod Taylor left last week's game with a groin injury. Again, not sure if he's going to play this week yet or not. Justin Fields, who wasn't active last week, may get back on the field. Again, not a very good pickup here, but he's got a high ceiling anyway. They're playing against Jacksonville, who's been very stellar on defense over the last month or so. However, they have given up big games to the likes of Geno Smith, for example. Tua Tagovailoa, they've been winning despite him. He's been just managing the game, doing very little in the passing game. But if Devon Achane is limited at all, maybe they'll open up the passing game. We'll just have to see. They're playing against Pittsburgh on Monday night. Shedeur Sanders, can you repeat last week's game? Probably not, but he's out there and playing against Chicago. And Tyler Shuck, who's been slowly improving his fantasy point production over the last few weeks, is playing against Carolina at home. And we have to mention it, Phillip Rivers may get the start this week. And if that is the case, he is another quarterback who at least will be on the field. We'll know a little more as this week goes through. Now for our running backs out there, waiver wire target-wise, we got Jalen Wright at Pittsburgh on Monday night. I honestly expect Devon Achane to play, so I would not put a lot of money on Jalen Wright unless you are the Devon Achane manager and you want to hold on hope that to play Achane on Monday night, and God forbid he misses time, you have the backup ready to go. So honestly, he's a 1 to 5%er. Unless you want to block the Achane manager, it's that time of year. It's the playoffs. We are blocking opponents. So unless you want to block the Achane manager because you're playing against them, or you are the Achane manager, then in that case, I would maybe put 20 to 25% of your remaining fab on Jalen Wright. Otherwise, I would just let this one go. Trey Benson, we mentioned, he may come back, may not. I would not put any money on here, as we'll know later today if he's going to be back on the field at all or not. Again, though, but if he does come back, he is the best running back in that Arizona Cardinals running back room here. So maybe pick him up for $1 or less, and then you'll know by Wednesday evening whether you can move on and pick up another player. So it's a very short-term pickup to see what the long-term prognosis is. Chris Rodriguez, if he's still out there, he is the red zone goal line running back here, most likely to get touchdowns against the New York Giants. A pretty soft defense, not the worst defense, but a pretty good matchup here. Devin Singletary, again, he's been playing well too the last 3 weeks, even with Tyrone Tracy. But I expect Tyrone Tracy not to miss any time. So this is going to be a split backfield. But they're playing against the Washington Commanders or the Giants, and that is a very good pickup as well. A very good matchup as well. Blake Corum is getting more and more work as Kyren Williams. One of two things. He's been getting a little banged up, not missing any time, but getting banged up throughout these games. And they want to start saving him for the playoffs and giving him a little more rest. And Blake Corum is doing very well in the limited work here. He's had touchdowns in multiple weeks over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So Blake Corum, especially if you have Kyren Williams, this is similar to Jalen Wright, although you could play him like a Devin Singletary. So he's kind of a cross hybrid between Devin Singletary and Jalen Wright here, as he is a workhorse handcuff for Kyren Williams, but also a back end flex that you can play at any time. And with the news that Jerome Ford is out, I thought Dylan Sampson might miss last week, but he actually played. And there's one less running back in the way now. Dylan Sampson will be on the field to spell Kinshawn Junkins. So let's just see. How much money would you put on these guys? Again, Jalen Wright, we mentioned it here. If you need him as your backup to Achane, or you're trying to block the Achane manager, put 20 to 25%. Otherwise, put 2 to 5%. Benson, 1%er at the most, and then you'll see what you get. And these other guys, Rodriguez has probably already been picked up. Rodriguez could be 5 to 10% because he is a flex at any time. Singletary, I'd put less. Corum, again, similar to Wright. If you have Kyren Williams or you're playing against Kyren Williams, maybe put 15% there. And then Dylan Sampson, another 1-2% at the most. My receivers for this week are actually all tight ends. That's the craziest thing. We've got Darren Waller. This goes a little bit with the fact that Achane is a little banged up here, so maybe his workload will be lessened, and they might have to expand their passing game, especially in the red zone where Waller is the most effective. And it's not so much for this week against Pittsburgh. They're playing Cincinnati Bengals next week, or the Miami Dolphins. He is going to be a must-start next week as a tight end, and potentially even a must-start as a flex. Pick up Waller now on the cheap skis here to get ahead of Week 16's matchup against Cincinnati. So it depends if you really need him or not, but 5% or less, as he's not a emergency start, but get ahead of it and save some dough. Brenton Strange, if he's still out there, had a little bit of a down week last week. However, they're playing the Jets, who, it's not going to be a tough matchup for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still a quality tight end. Isaiah Likely, honestly, he's my start of the week this week, probably for the receiver position at the tight end. They're playing Cincinnati. I think, honestly, either Mark Andrews or Likely could potentially have very good games, as last week for Buffalo, we had Kincaid and Dawson Knox have big games, plus the third tight end also catch a touchdown. Isaiah Likely's been getting more of the yards and catches lately. He's had more of those controversial plays with a fumble 2 weeks ago and the tip-tap-tap incomplete pass, the horrible call by the refs this past week. He's honestly 1 inch and 1 back call away from having back-to-back monster games. And this week against Cincinnati is a perfect matchup. Both Likely and Andrews have potential to get double-digit points, but Likely is starting to show out a little more lately. David Njoku left last week with a knee injury. I'm not sure as long his prognosis going forward, but Harold Fannin has been a superstar, leads the league in broken tackles or forced missed tackles after the catch this year, at least in the tight end position. Against Chicago, it's not a super soft matchup, but nothing to be worried about here. Harold Fannin is another guy to pick up. And with Zach Ertz being out for the season here, Ben Sinnott might be a sneaky tight end to pick up. They're playing the Giants. If you recall, I don't know if it was 3 years ago, maybe 4, when Ertz was the leading tight end in Arizona ahead of a young Trey McBride. Then he got knocked out late in the season, and then McBride flurried from going from 0 to 60 once the injury to Ertz took place. This might be a similar opportunity anyway for Ben Sinnott to have a chance to blossom here without the veteran tight end in front of him anymore. So of all these tight ends here, Likely is a this week start. So you're going to put whatever you need to get if you need a tight end or a flex, because you are in danger of some guys who are hurt or guys you don't like to play. I'd honestly put 15% or 20% on Likely because you're going to start him this week. Fannin is similar, probably 10% because we don't trust the offense as much in Cleveland. Brenton Strange and Darren Waller are both your 5% or less. Keep in mind, Darren Waller is the value this week because of the matchup next week. And Ben Sinnott is a 0 to 1%, just to see if we have a young guy who maybe can blossom here in the latter part of the season. All right, on to our kickers this week. We have Ryan Fitzgerald for the Carolina Panthers playing at New Orleans. So we have an indoor game, so that's always a plus here. And we have Harrison Mevis for the LA Rams up against Detroit, another kicker who will be playing inside, and that game should be a pretty high-scoring game as well. I got a few defenses here that catch my attention for various reasons. I've got the New York Giants against the Washington Commanders. We'll see how the Commanders respond after last week having Jaden Daniels aggravate that injury. They were shut out last week. I don't expect a shutout again, but I could see them being emotionally drained with having their quarterback leave being injured twice. So potentially you have a defeated Washington. So the Giants might be ripe for the picking for this one. I got the Dallas Cowboys playing against Minnesota. Minnesota gives up the most points to opposing defenses. Last week, even in a game where they were dominating the Commanders still were able to get 4 sacks last week. Dallas should be able to get that combination of sacks and turnovers at around 6 points. And if they can get take one of those to the house or get a couple of fourth down stops, they might get closer to double digits. I got Miami at Pittsburgh. Don't love this one here. But Aaron Rodgers rarely strings 2 great games back-to-back. He had one of his better games last week. There's a chance that he might get sacked multiple times this week. And San Francisco, honestly, has been one of the worst defenses this year, but they were on bye last week, and they're playing Tennessee this week. This is a matchup. I believe they're at home, so a good matchup at home, coming off a bye. Again, these are streaming-type defenses here that you're looking for to either pick up if you have really bad defenses or to block your opponent. So if I had to rate these guys, I'd probably go Dallas, Giants, San Fran, Miami, to be honest with you. As like I said, Minnesota is good for at least 3 to 5 sacks. So that's what I'm looking at here. All right, guys, it is now time to strap in for this week's Mike Rant.
Baby Rant. Karen Rant. Monty.
I don't care whose fault it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think.
Mike Rant.
This is going to seem so familiar from weeks past. I just can't let it go. We are first. I have 2 rants this week, guys. We're going to start out with that Eagles-Chargers game on Monday night. All week, we're worried about weather, rain, snow, cold, slick, all this stuff. This game was inside with 2 primed offenses, and it was awful. We had 2 fumbles, 5 interceptions combined here, not including fumbles that were recovered by these are lost fumbles, not including the multiple fumbles that were recovered by the team who did the fumbling, and not including a interception that Jalen Hurts threw that was called back because of a penalty. There could have easily been 9 to 10 turnovers in this game, and I believe Justin Herbert was sacked 6 or 7 times. This was just an atrocious offensive game, a battle of the field goal kickers. Once again, the Philadelphia Eagles are just letting down everyone, and they cannot score the ball. Our next one, again, another double dip here. We're going with analytics once again, and this one we're going more specifically into the Cleveland Browns against the Tennessee Titans. It was improbable enough of a comeback as they were down 14 points with 4 minutes to go. However, Cleveland did get a touchdown, and with them being down 8 points after the 6-point touchdown, they decided to go for 2 points. And you ask yourself, why do that? Why not? I've heard people say, that's not a bad play. It's a 50% chance. And if you don't get it, you can do it again the next time for a 50% chance. Well, if you guys know percentages and statistics, if you go for 2 attempts that are both 50% chance each, that means to get the 2 points combined out of that, you have a 25% chance to tie the game. If you were to miss the 2-point in one try and get it the other time, that's 25% chance that'll happen, that you'll tie the game. When if you just would have kicked the 2 extra points, it would be a 91% chance to tie the game. And if you wanted to go for the win, do the extra point first, and then have it down to the 2-point conversion on the last one, where now you have a 48% chance to win the game. I don't understand here. People say the analytics said to go for it. What are you talking about? Doesn't make any sense. If you take away your opportunity to do it later, you just ruin it's like when you're playing cards. If you're playing poker or Hold'em, when there's 2 cards left on the streets, 4th Street and the river, and you have a 1 outer, you have a 4% chance with 2 cards to go and a 2% chance with 1 card to go. That's exactly what happened. They missed it on the first one, which means they had half the percentage to get the next one, which would have just tied it at this point. The only reason I'm letting them off the hook here is if they threw the game and wanted to lose. If they want to fall back behind Tennessee, which they have not done as they still have 1 more win than Tennessee, but now Tennessee will have a tiebreaker if Tennessee can muster up 1 more win the rest of the way than the Browns. So unless they threw this game, which is possible, the analytics and going for it was a bad call. And not only is it 50% chance you'll get a 2-point conversion, that's for all the teams, the spectrum from the good teams to the bad teams. That will only work if you're a middle-of-the-road team. I'm going to ask you right here, do you think Cleveland is a middle-of-the-road team? No! They're a bottom 10% team, which means you got to knock off another 20% here of them getting in there. So it's only a 30% chance, 35% chance they're going to get the 2-point conversion successful anyway. And now you divide that by 2, it's a 17% chance you're going to tie this game if you go for 2 twice and hope to get it just once. Kick the extra points, guys, unless you're throwing the game. And that is also another thing to talk about here, but we'll save that for another rant. All right, guys, it is now time to look back at our last week's Wingman Jam, the final Wingman Jam of the season, where we were in the Showcase Showdown, where our Phase 3 winner, Andrew, our audience member, I like to call him our user out there, and our host held it down for Phase 4, Bernie. So it had Andrew versus Bernie. Let's see who took down the Showcase Showdown in this final Wingman Jam.
Wingman Fantasy Football.
Wingman Jam with Bernie, the Bounty Hunter, and Amazing Spidey. Boom shakalaka. Baltimore Ravens. Seattle Seahawks.
Your rumors are true. We do indeed have in our midst a user.
right, Andrew with his stack from Seattle. Sam Darnold and Jack Smith and Jigba defeats Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry 48.96 to 33.76.
This one's for the birds. Wait, birds aren't real. Andrew takes this one and gets the shirt.
I fight for the users.
Congratulations, Andrew. You took this one down. You won the Showcase Showdown in Week 14, and you're going to earn yourself a shirt as well. Now you get to pick which shirt you like here. Let's see. I got to do something here. Are you going with the classic, or are you going with the Creators Edition? It's your choice. Just let me know what color you want, what style you want, and we'll get that out to you ASAP. So thank you for playing, and congratulations. I appreciate you playing all year long, and you took down the final Showcase Showdown. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, guys, it is now time to get into this week's preview for Week 15. Our first game we're going to go over real quick here is the Thursday night game with the Atlanta Falcons at 4-9, now eliminated from playoff contention, up against their rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at 7-6. Once again, this is a Thursday night kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Pardon me, the over-under is 44.5. Tampa Bay is favored by minus 4.5. On this one, guys, I don't like to pick the scores overall, but I'm going with Tampa Bay to cover and win this one. They've got a rebound. They've been playing atrociously on offense lately, but they're getting some players back, and they're at home this week, and the Falcons have been playing even worse than the Bucs. All right, let's look at some of our players and see what kind of options we have in terms of our fantasy lineups. All right, on the Falcons side here, we got Kirk Cousins. Cannot play him. He is not anyone we're going to be playing. Bijan Robinson automatically in your lineup. No questions asked, of course. Now, Drake London, I expect at this point he hasn't practiced yet, so there's a pretty good chance he is going to miss. Darnell Mooney is the main step up here, but he only had one catch last week. He's had this opportunity for 3 or 4 weeks this season, if not more, as London missed time earlier as well. And he's only had one good game in 3 duds, and last week was one of the worst games ever. So honestly, you could play Mooney. It's a great matchup, but it's not the first time he's had a great matchup without London in the lineup. It would be a risky play, being that he has to be in your lineup on Thursday night. It's a glory play, guys. I wouldn't do it. I'd just be too fearful, but I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly think he's in line for a good game, or the opportunity is there for a good game. Let's put it that way. But can we trust him? You just can't do it. You can't trust him. So if you want to be the bold manager who puts him in, I can see the argument for it, but I couldn't do it. All right, Tyler Algier, is he good enough to be a back-end flex? Potentially, but again, he's a risky player as well. If he doesn't get in the end zone, he's not going to get more than 40 or 50 yards here. So I'd be looking for better options. With no teams on bye this week, I would not look for Algier as a flex play this week, unless, again, your roster is just completely depleted and you are desperate. Kyle Pitts has been playing better with Kirk Cousins. As a tight end, you could probably put him in your lineup. I'm personally not a big-time fan. I'd be looking for other options. Like this week, I'd play Isaiah Likely for sure, Mark Andrews for sure. I'd probably even play Waller or wait on Waller, to be honest with you, this week. So Pitts is not even in my top 6, 7, 8. I don't know where he falls, maybe 11, 12, 13 in terms of tight ends. So being that it's Thursday and he's not a top of the top half of the tight end ones, I'd be looking for other options. The Atlanta defense, I probably wouldn't go out of my way to play either. Probably look for some streaming options. If you have no one else in your team and you don't want to even think about it, not a big deal. And then Zane Gonzalez, you could play him again. He's been doing okay. He's been scoring more points than the rest of the offense, to be honest with you. All right, on the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield's been struggling, guys. He's been getting 13 points in terms of fantasy or less the last 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know where he falls. I assume he's got to bounce back, especially if he gets some of his receivers back with Jalen McMillan and Mike Evans. I would, at this point, he's been off target with Ibuka. So unless Mike Evans comes back, which I don't expect to get a big snap count, but nonetheless, having that comfort level on 1 or 2 big plays might make all the difference, as they're just missing on a couple connections here from having bigger days. Baker Mayfield, again, I'm not looking to play him, but there's not a lot of our streamers. None of our streaming quarterbacks are better than Baker Mayfield. Let's put it that way. If you don't have two quality quarterbacks already on your roster, Baker Mayfield's going to have to go in there. You're going to have to ride it. Bucky Irving has earned the right to play. He's going to be a starting lineup, an RB2 at this point, and want your best flex if you've got better options in terms of running backs. Emeka Egbuka, I don't know what to say, man. He is falling off. He's got one of the lowest catch percentages here, including some are off-target passes by Baker Mayfield, and some are just straight-up drops from Emeka Egbuka. It'd be really hard to sit him in terms of what he has done, but if you go by what he's done lately, there's probably better options out there. Honestly, I'd be more interested in playing Isaiah Likely than Egbuka this week if it came down to it, but that'd be a bold move just by their pedigree here. So that's up to you guys. You know your teams here and where he falls. I would definitely put him less than a wide receiver 2 at this point. He is a flex at best, and once you get there might be other running backs like a Devin Neal, for example. I'd rather play Devin Neal than Emeka Egbuka, just for an example. Chris Godwin does not excite me, although I do feel a little better about him than Egbuka. Although Ibuka's got such explosive play potential and Godwin really doesn't. Honestly, I'm not looking to play any of these guys this week in terms of that. Rashad White, again, I'm not looking to play him either. These guys are all fine, but with the combination of Thursday night and no one on bye, I'm looking for other options here. Same with Sean Tucker. Mike Evans, I'm excited to have him back. He's on my team. He's been on my IR for so long. I've only played him for one game this year, and he gave me 0 points. He was a trade. I acquired him in a trade earlier in the season. So I just want to get him in the lineup to finally have him play. But if I wasn't that kind of manager who was waiting all year for him and was playing other guys who have been better, I would wait one more week to see how he goes here. But again, beggars can't be choosers here as there are injuries out there. Evans would be a bold play. Let's put it that way. I don't expect him to have a full snap count, although he's always a red zone target. He's a monster of a man, so he would have a lower ceiling. You could put him in there. Honestly, I'd rank him highest of all these receivers if he was active, just because of his long history with Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay defense, definitely you can play him at home against Kirk Cousins. Put him on in, as well as the kicker Chase McLaughlin is a solid start. On to our next game. The Cleveland Browns, off a loss where they had their highest scoring game of the season, are at 3-10, heading over to the Chicago Bears, who lost a close one last week, have fallen to 9-4. This game's at Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. The over-under is 39.5. Chicago is favored by 7.5 points. I'm going to pick Chicago to win this one. However, I'm going to have Cleveland cover this. That's just too big of a spread. And Shador is let loose. He is on fire, guys. He's going to keep the points going, but they'll probably lose once again. Shador Sanders, can you play him? You can if you're desperate, but again, with people, no buys this week, he's probably not going to make the cut. I would not chase the points of last week, but I would not be afraid that it was just a flash in the pan either. I expect him to get closer to that 17 points going forward with some spike games of 24 or so. He's always got a chance to get a rushing touchdown like last week, so keep that in mind. Kinshawn Junkins has really let us down overall, but he is the man getting the ball over and over and over again. He's just not getting the touchdowns anymore. He's kind of capping out at 85 yards or so. Against the Bears, a decent matchup. It depends on who you got again here. I think he falls into that RB2 at best and a solid flex. You're probably going to play Junkins unless you are stacked and loaded. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be afraid to bench him. I'm not saying he's a must start. I'm just saying he's a likely start based on probably what you have. Jerry Jeudy had a great catch last week and big numbers due to that catch. I don't know if I'd chase that either. Neither was Cedric Tillman. These guys are guys I would imagine you have better options out there. If you're desperate, Jerry Jeudy, I guess, would be the one to play between those two. Harold Fannin is the only receiver in this game that I would play, as he has been awesome most of the season, honestly. But when Njoku banged up and his ability to break tackles and make tacklers miss, Fannin can even take short plays and turn them into longer runs. Cleveland defense, you got to play him every week, as they are always a candidate for multiple sacks. Let's just see if they can get some more stats other than just the sacks this week. On the other side of the ball, Caleb Williams. They are at home. It is a tough matchup according to the defense, although last week we saw Tennessee run all over them. Caleb Williams is someone I'm not ever looking to start, to be honest with you. He is a bye week, a strong bye replacement, and you only play on really good matchups. This is not one of those, so I would not be looking to play Caleb Williams. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai, you would say no against the Cleveland Browns, but we just saw Tony Pollard go ham last week, and I feel like the Bears have really turned over their offense to the running game. I would play these guys as you would be playing them anyway. I would, even though the matchup seems difficult, I would not downgrade them based on this matchup at this point. It's not a smash start, as it's not a great matchup, but I would not be looking to sit them because of the matchup. DJ Moore and Luther Burden. What are we going to do here? Right now, I'm assuming Rome Odunze is going to miss another game, so I'm not going to mention him here in terms of whether or not to play him. These receivers, you can't play him right now. And DJ Moore always has a random spike game, and he's probably about due. It's been about 3 weeks since he had his last one. So he might be due for one if you're desperate, but they've really turned the ball over to the running game here. I have the Bears. I'm not looking for any of the passing game here, except maybe Loveland as a tight end, although I don't have him super high. He's probably more in that 9, 10, 11 range. I have him ahead of, who did I mention before? I've probably got Loveland in the same range as Pitts. I probably have him a little bit ahead. That's just me. But I could see the argument either way. But I have Fannin ahead. I have likely ahead of Loveland, for example, just to give you some ideas here. Chicago defense, you can play him against Cleveland, and Cairo Santos has been solid all year. I'm not looking for any other. I'm not looking for other options there. Although they are playing Chicago, I don't know the weather at this point. It's a little too early to even speculate here. So if the weather looks like it might get bad, that might change some of our decisions based on the kickers and our passing game. All right, on to our next game here. Game number 3, the Baltimore Ravens off a tough loss last loss last week, at 6-7 against the Cincinnati Bengals, who also had a tough loss at 4-9. Another Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. The over-under is a very nice 51.5 points. Baltimore is favored by 2.5. I'm picking Cincinnati to win and cover this game. I don't know why. That's the last time they played them really tight here. And I think they're going to get their revenge this time around. Lamar Jackson has been pretty bad of the last month, although he did recover last week as he had a rushing touchdown and I think 2 passing touchdowns. At least one anyway. Lamar Jackson, it's pretty hard to sit him, especially against a matchup against Cincinnati. But last time against Cincinnati, he did not do anything. So just keep that in mind. But it's really hard. You're not going to find anyone else. Let's put it this way. I'd play Burrow over Jackson if I had both these quarterbacks. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't mean it's going to be right, but Burrow has been more consistent than Lamar Jackson in the positive way. All right, Derrick Henry. This was the weirdest thing. Last time they played Cincinnati, we thought he was going to have an awesome day. He did good because he scored a long touchdown early, but he was in and out of the lineup all day. I don't know why. I can't foresee that game plan happening again. Derrick Henry should have a monster game this week. However, he's been kind of slowing down over the last couple weeks. Zay Flowers off his best game of the season. If Lamar Jackson plays well, Zay Flowers will be the reason for it here. He's got a good chance against a beat-up Cincinnati defense. Bateman, now our back-end flex options here, Rashad Bateman and Rasheen Ali. I'm not looking. They're not worthy enough to get in the lineup this week. But these two guys, I'd play both of them, and I'd rank likely higher of the 2 tight ends. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are smash plays. They should both be in the top 8 this week. I have Likely at about 4 to 5, if not higher, and Mark Andrews at about 8 or 9, give or take. Baltimore defense you can play, and Tyler Loop you can play, as this should be a high-scoring game. Both kickers should be getting some points here in this game, as we expect, as it has a 51.5 over/under. On the Cincinnati side, Joe Burrow is in your lineup. Chase Brown, you're always a little nervous, but he has gotten a lot better as Burrow's come back here. He's in your lineup as well. Jamar Chase had a tough go last week, but of course you're going to play him. Now, as I expect, T. Higgins is going to be out this week. We have Josephus, Mitch Tinsley, and Samaje Perine as our back-end flexes. I'm not looking to play any of these guys. Honestly, I think Tinsley has the biggest upside here, as he's been getting more of the targets than Josephus. Perine has been also very effective, but it's hard to guess which one's going to score a touchdown. I'm not going to play any of these guys. I think Perine's the safest. I think Tinsley has the most upside, and Josephus is in between those guys if I had to rank these back-end flex players for Cincinnati. Mike Gesicki had a great game last week. I'm not going to play him this week. He's going to be on my bench. Cincinnati's defense has been improving, but they're still not good. I'm definitely looking for other options. And like I said, McPherson should be in your lineup as a high-scoring game here. Our next game on the docket is the LA Chargers off a huge, ugly victory. If you saw my rant, you know that was one of the worst games to watch. But the Chargers at 9-4 up against the Kansas City Chiefs at 6-7. And the Chargers couldn't put the death nail into the Chiefs' chances to make the playoffs, as they will secure the tiebreaker with a victory and then have a 4-game lead with 3 to play. This is the last chance here for Kansas City. This game again is at 1 o'clock Eastern time. The over/under is kind of low at 41.5. Kansas City is favored by 4.5. I keep saying Kansas City's got to turn it around. I'm done doing it. I might be wrong. LA Chargers are going to win, and they're going to cover this one. They're going to win this one outright on the road, and they're going to send their division rivals packing for home and missing the playoffs. All right, let's look at what players we can play. Justin Herbert with that broken hand. Didn't have a lot of passing yards last week, although I have to say he ran the ball the best I've seen in a long time. I don't know if that was part of the game plan with his hand or not. It didn't seem to make sense. Nonetheless, he was taking off, getting big-time third down conversions. So Herbert, it's not an automatic start, but he's definitely in that 11, 12, 13 range. It'd be pretty hard to sit him at this point just with his pedigree here. Let's see. There's no streaming quarterbacks I would play over him. Let's put it that way. Amari Hampton and Vidal, I don't know if they split the snaps. It looked like to me Vidal was on the field more than Hampton. However, they had the same amount of touches, nearly the same amount of fantasy points, as Vidal was more effective overall. But Hampton got in the end zone, and actually Hampton looked really good as well. He was very shifty and strong. You could just see how much bigger of a back he is than Vidal. Not necessarily stronger, but just a bigger body. And that was his warm-up game. I think Hampton's going to, even though Vidal's earned it, this is going to be at least a 50-50 and probably more of a 60-40 for Hampton as they phase him back in to take over the lead here. Although it is a very tough matchup against Kansas City. Honestly, due to the matchup, I put these guys as a flex at best, not RB2s this week. Or the combination of splitting carries and the tough defense. I'm going to avoid these guys, honestly. Let's see what other options you would have, but I'm not looking to play either of these guys. It's just a tough matchup here. Ladd McConkey had one of his worst games last week in terms of yards and catches. He's still the best receiver, I think, overall in terms of fantasy for the Chargers here. Again, another tough matchup on the road. He's a wide receiver 2 at best. Honestly, he's a flex. He could be in the flex. If I had to pick between these guys, I'm starting to learn my lesson. I used to think the receivers here, but over and over again, these running backs, even in split backfields, the opportunity for touchdowns on the short yardage are just so much stronger than the receivers here. I'd honestly play Hampton, Vidal over Ladd just because of the chance for short yardage touchdowns by the running backs, mixed in with the long play, just as long of the plays they can get as the receivers get. Quentin Johnson had a good year. I just don't trust him anymore. I'm not looking to play him. He is a back end flex. Honestly, they're going right down the order here. I'd play Hampton, Vidal, Ladd, Quentin in that order. Gadsden, somewhere around Quentin, probably a little higher, but not automatically. And then Keenan Allen. Actually, Trey Harris is starting to get a little more work here, which just mutes Allen's snaps on the field here, but neither of them are worth the play. So honestly, I'm not looking to, it's weird. I pick the Chargers to win, but I don't love all their options. I think they're just going to play a solid game. They're not going to blow them out or anything. So I'd start with the running game just because I think with the two guys, even though it's a tough defense, they might be able to wear the defense out with two quality running backs. Go Ladd next, and then Gadsden, Quentin as a tie, and Allen, Trey Harris do not touch. The LA Chargers defense, both these teams have injured offensive lines, and we saw how much pressure Mahomes had last week. Granted, it was against Houston, but the LA Chargers are also a quality defense. I would not be afraid of playing the Chargers defense against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Cam Dicker is just an automatic start at this point. He is money. On the Kansas City side, Patrick Mahomes, actually, the more they lose, the better his points are in terms of fantasy. So either way, we're playing Mahomes no matter what. Now for the running game here, I don't know if you noticed or not, but Isaiah Pacheco got the first run last week, the first series or two, but did not take advantage. I expect him to start again, but Kareem Hunt is just the safer play in terms of touchdowns. Both these guys are not automatic starts, but I would play Hunt over Pacheco due to that touchdown upside here. Rashee Rice must start. He is the main man for Patrick Mahomes. Now let's go to our flex type receivers here. Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hollywood Brown. All of these guys have a chance to get an end zone, but none of them are big-time target receivers here. Xavier Worthy is the highest of those three, but honestly, they should all be on your bench. Travis Kelce had a tough day last week, but honestly, he's been really solid. He's had, he's got a dud game every 4 weeks, but he's had double figures every other week. I'd play him with confidence this week, honestly. I don't know if I play him with confidence, but I'd put him back in your lineup. I would not stray away, especially the tight end spot, and he might even be able to be a flex here as well. Let's put it this way. I put Kelce ahead of Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hollywood Brown, and I'd honestly put Kelce ahead of Pacheco probably, although like I said, tiebreakers are now going to go to the running back for me. Kansas City defense, you can play him. We saw Herbert get sacked 6 times last week. They've lost another offensive lineman. Both these defensive lines should be able to wreak some havoc on the quarterbacks. And Harrison Butker has been struggling, guys. You can play him as they're still going to have confidence in the kicker. They're not going to not kick because he's missed 1 or 2 over the last couple weeks here. But I would not have, he's not a top 5 kicker anymore. He's more of a 10-11 kicker. So you can put him in your lineup, but he's not I'd rather play Dicker, for example, than Butker. All right, on to our next game. Buffalo Bills at 9-4. Oh, this is the game of the week. Buffalo Bills at 9-4 heading into New England, who's 11-2. Another 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff here. The over-under is at 49.5. Buffalo is a road favorite at -1 point. Feels like Patriots just find a way, but they also have been beating bad teams. I think Buffalo is good. This is Buffalo's chance to show they are still the kings of the division, even though they might not be in record. They might put a little bit of a doubt in the back of the Patriots' mind here if they can destroy them this week and know they might have a playoff game looming in the future. So I got Buffalo winning this one and covering. Now, for players that we can play on the Bills side, Josh Allen, obviously. James Cook, obviously. Wide receivers, no one I would like to play. Shakir is the highest rated one in my opinion, but I'm not looking to put him in my lineup. And last week we had Kincaid and Knox have very strong games, but that was against Cincinnati. This is New England. We are not playing the tight ends this week. Kincaid can be in your lineup as a tight end. I have him probably equal to or slightly ahead of Pitts, for example, but he is not in the range of likely or Mark Andrews, in my opinion, for this week. Buffalo defense, not an automatic play. Neither is Prater, but none of these guys I'm afraid to play. On to the New England side, Drake May. You got to play him. He's been steady all year long, getting 18 to 24 points. He's going to be solid here as well. Now for the running game here. Good matchup. Surprisingly, the Bills are easy to run on. I think Henderson actually has the type of skill set that actually will break out more against Buffalo. However, we really don't know how this backfield is going to be split as they just keep going back to Stevenson until they don't have any options here. So this is probably going to be close to a 50-50 split. But with this type of defense, I know we've been waiting for it all year. I think this might be one of the first times where they both play that Henderson is going to have the better game by far over Stevenson. Now for our wide receiver options for the New England Patriots, we got Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte. Diggs has been not good lately at all. I think he's had 3 straight weeks as a dud. And not only that, he's not on the field that much. He's playing like 45% of the snaps. Anything can change off a bye week here. Maybe he was just getting worn down and they're trying to keep him fresh. So it's hard to see what might change off a bye. But I'd have Boutte rated higher than Diggs, to be honest with you. Both these guys, though, are at best flexes. I would not be overly excited to play either of these guys, as you never know which one is going to get the work here, as Drake May seems to spread the ball around quite nicely. Our back-end receivers here, Mac Hollins and Demario Douglas, can be just as good as Diggs and Boutte. That's what makes it so hard, but you can't play those guys with super confidence here. If you're desperate, you can play either one of them. Mac Hollins is more of a possession receiver. Demario Douglas is more over the top. Hunter Henry is honestly one of their best and most reliable receivers. You could play him as a tight end. I'd probably have him in that 7-8 range ahead of the Pitts group. A little bit maybe in between Likely and Andrews, give or take there. So maybe if you have Andrews at 8 or 9, you could have Hunter Henry at 7 or 8, but I'd have Likely ahead of both. New England defense, not a great matchup. I'm not looking to play him, not looking to bench him. Borregales, same thing. Not looking to make a change, but I'm not excited for the play. All right, our next game on the docket here is the Washington Commanders at 3-10, heading into MetLife Stadium. The New York Giants at 2-11. This game too is a 1:00 Eastern Time kickoff. The over/under is 47.5, and I think this game is actually going to be pretty high scoring as these defenses are not great, and the Giants' offense has been getting better and better, and the Washington Commanders are going to have to keep up. The Giants are favored by 2 points. I'm going to take the Giants to win and cover this game, making the Cleveland Browns loss feel like it was on purpose to try and let these other teams catch up. So I'm taking the Giants at home to win and cover. The question is Jaden Daniels going to play? It's too early in the week to know for sure. I don't expect him to play. I was hoping he wouldn't play last week just because why risk it? So I think they're going to learn their lesson and not take the chance here. Just have him practice, get his reps in, and get him back healthy through practice. He's not in the IR. You can. He doesn't need the live game action to work through the injury here, but let him heal up without the risk of getting hit. So Marcus Mariota, can you start him if he plays? You can. He might be one of the only streaming quarterbacks that would beat the likes of who else did I have that? Like Caleb Williams, for example. I'd probably play Mariota over Williams if Mariota gets the start. Just for example, it's close, but Mariota's been pretty good. Again, not great for the team, but good for himself as he gets designed runs all the time here. Chris Rodriguez is good for a touchdown against a team like the Giants. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. Again, the passing game isn't great with Mariota, but I expect this to be a little bit of a high-scoring game, a little bit of a shootout. I lean more the McLaurin side for sure, but you never know if Deebo can break one down the sideline after a short catch. And Ben Sinnott, I wouldn't start him, but I'd be excited to watch and see how they use him coming out of here after the injury to Zach Ertz. On the other side of the ball, Jackson Dart, he's earned your trust, man. If you think he's going to make it through the game without any kind of injury or concussion, he's been getting 20 points or more in every start he's had that he hasn't left early. Jackson Dart's actually a must start in that 9 to 10 range. Tyron Tracy and Devin Singletary, I just don't know how this is going to be split, as Singletary looked really good in the last game, but the game prior to that, he didn't do anything. This matchup is so good, though. If Tyron Tracy is out, I'm playing Singletary. If Tracy plays, you probably could still play both these guys, to be honest with you. But, of course, their ceiling would be greatly reduced if both are on the field. It's just a good matchup here. Again, I think Washington's going to fold on defense here, to be honest with you. So I could play both these guys. I would not be against it at all. Let's see. Would I rank them? How would I rank them compared to Pacheco and Hunt and Amari and Hampton Vidal? I think they're all pretty close. The matchup is better for Singletary and Tracy. I think Hampton Vidal are the best combo, and then you've got Pacheco and Hunt, where Hunt's more guaranteed for a touchdown. How would you guys do that? I might go, because of the matchups here, I might actually go Tyron Tracy, Singletary ahead of Hampton Vidal. Those close. Those guys are way better. It's just a really tough matchup against Kansas City. All right, getting back to this game over here. Our pass catchers are Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. At this point, keep playing them again. I think it's going to be a shootout. This is going to be similar to that Tennessee Browns game last week, where you didn't think there'd be a high score, but it ended up being that way. I think this is going to be a high scoring. I think both these receivers are in play as more like flexes. You'd be bold to put him as a wide receiver too, ahead of some other guys. But honestly, they've been just as good, especially Wan'Dale Robinson, as some of your higher named receivers. Theo Johnson just keeps missing a little bit, but he's an athletic tight end. He gets open down the field. He just seems to make a little bit of a goofy play sometimes when he puts his hands up for the ball. So he's going to be involved. Can he actually come down with some of these catches is the question. We're going to watch one more time. There's other tight ends, but like I said, with Waller, Likely, Andrews, these guys that aren't automatic starts every week, Johnson is not one of those this week. New York Giants defense, I have them as a good streaming defense this week, although I think it's going to be a shootout and the Commanders are going to try and keep up. I also think they're going to make mistakes along the way, and the Giants are going to potentially have a good defensive day here. All right, we got 2 games left to go over. Our 7th game is the Las Vegas Raiders at 2-11 at the Philadelphia Eagles at 8-5 on a 3-game losing streak. Another 1 p.m. start. The over-under is low at 38.5, but Philadelphia is favored by 11 points. Is that right? At home here. I'm picking Philly. I haven't learned my lesson, but it's the Raiders. It's the Raiders. I'm picking Philly to win and cover. This is going to be the get right games here. They are going to pour it on. There's not going to be, let's just get the field goal. They are going to try and do anything they can to run this score up for the field goods. They need it. All right, now for some options here for the Raiders. Geno Smith was forced out of last week with a shoulder injury. Not sure his availability going into this week as of yet. If he can't play, it's Kenny Pickett. I don't even know why I mentioned it. We're not playing either quarterback if they are playing this week, regardless of who's playing this week. Ashton Genty, not been very good. Half of it's his fault. Half of it's just the bad team. If you need to, because he's your best running back, I would put him at an RB2, and if you can get him out for a flex spot, I would look for other options. I'd play Likely over Genty. That's how disappointed I am in Genty. Although again, he is a starting running back, and he had tons of opportunities here, but he just hasn't done it a long time, and it's a tough defense as well. So Genty, I'm looking to find other options. I wouldn't be too crazy or stupid about it. But again, if you've got like a 50-50 here, Genty's on the bench. Wide receivers for the Raiders, they don't have any. You can't play any of these guys. The only player in the passing game you can play is Brock Bowers. Brock Austin Bowers.
Yeah, baby.
All right, now for the Philadelphia side. Oh my, Jalen Hurts. Can we play him? It's been tough. He's been playing bad, guys. There's no way around it. They keep saying they lose in the games every time A.J. Brown has a good game. That is not because A.J. Brown's having a good game. A.J. Brown's getting the ball because they're losing, for one, and he'd have even bigger games if Jalen Hurts would stop throwing ducks. This past week, A.J. Brown almost had 2 touchdowns, one called back from a very sketchy offensive pass interference, and the other one was a long bomb and a little bit of a diving catch that was well defended, but A.J. Brown comes down with that a good 30% of the time. So they could have had a bigger game here. Jalen Hurts, you got to play him. They should be able to do whatever they want against the Raiders. He might tuck it and run a little more this time to get some of his the points he used to get when he'd have 3 rushing touchdowns, for example. Saquon Barkley had the long touchdown run last week, but even before that was the shiftiest I've seen him in a long time. He looked good even on the runs where he was getting 5 and 6 yards before that breakout long run. I don't know if it had to do with the matchup or not, or whatever. He looked fine to me. I'd play Barkley with confidence. A.J. Brown's been on a little bit of a tear. It's always sketchy as they get to slow start sometimes, but A.J. Brown's a must start. Devontae Smith is not the same, however. I know for a while there we thought these a 1A and 1B, but Devontae Smith I don't trust him. I've never trusted him as a great receiver, even when he has his good days. This would be a game you could play him because of the Raiders, but he's always going to be a flex at best for me. Dallas Goedert seems to be the secondary receiver, if not the primary receiver. You can play him as well as any other tight end. I'd probably have him behind Pitts, but right in that same range. Philly defense, we are definitely playing. Geno Smith has the most sacks and I think the most interceptions thrown this year, and Pickett will probably do similar if he gets in the game. Philly defense is a top 3 defense this week, and Jake Elliott, you can always play him as well. All right, our last game, guys, is the New York Jets heading down to Jacksonville. The Jets are at 3-10. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 9-4. Another 1:00 p.m. kickoff. The over/under is 41.5. Jacksonville is favored by -12.5. That is absurd. All right, we've got. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to win here because we don't know who's going to be quarterbacking for the Jets. But I do not expect we'll see. I'm not going to pick I'm not going to pick the Jaguars to cover that spread. Why would I? So I'm going to have the Jets cover the 12.5. They will lose, but they'll lose by less than that. All right, we have who's going to play? Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields, Brady Cook. I don't know. They all stink. I wouldn't play any of the quarterbacks. Justin Fields, if he were to play, if you're desperate, only because he has that rushing upside, but nonetheless, he's played pretty awful all year long. Breece Hall is the only guy I would play with any modicum of confidence, although he is so dependent on game script and how the quarterbacks, if the quarterbacks check it down, as he's so good in that receiving game here. And Jacksonville's defense is pretty good, but I'd still play Breece Hall as an RB2 or a flex. Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie, you never know, but with the question marks at quarterback, we're just going to stay away from all pass catchers for the Jets, including Mason Taylor. On the other side of the ball here, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence had one of his best games last week in terms of just posture and zipping the ball in there. It's a good matchup. We saw what Tua did in the first quarter before they saw that he might get a pass knockdown or two and decided to run the rest of the way. So Trevor Lawrence, you could play in this game, but honestly, this is going to come down to the running game here. As if they can oppose their will, Travis Etienne is a must start at the running back position. Now for their main wide receivers, Brian Thomas looked his best game last week. Only 3 catches, but for 87 yards, getting back to his more explosive plays. I think you can put him back in your lineup as a wide receiver 2 or flex. Jacoby Myers, very similar. Honestly, in that same range as he's more reliable. Wide receiver 2 at best, but a solid flex as well. Bashal Tutin is they keep trying to get him more and more work, and every time they do, he gets banged up and falls back down into the lesser snap count here. I don't trust him right now, but we saw what Ollie Gordon did, and Jalen Wright did, and Devon Achane did before he left the game. This is a chance for a 2 running back day. If you've got a desperation flex and you've got Tutin on your bench, this might be the time to pull the trigger here. Is there a chance for both of these running backs to get in the end zone? Parker Washington right now is banged up. Not sure if he's going to play. At this point, with Brian Thomas being back, I'm not playing Washington either way. Brenton Strange as a tight end, you can play him here as well. He's fine. It's not a great matchup in that they can do whatever they want, and I don't think Brenton Strange is the priority. But he's a quality pass catcher here. I'd put him ahead of Washington, even if Washington was active. And Cam Little, you can always play, and Jacksonville defense should have a great day. They're number 1 or 2 defense this week against the New York Jets. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We went through all the games. We went through the Who Won the Wingman Jam. Congratulations again, Andrew. We went through some news. What else did we do today? And we did a rant and our waiver wire targets, of course. Again, don't forget, we're in the playoff time, so it's not so much if you need somebody, but if your opponent or upcoming opponent is going to need somebody. Maybe try and juice if you want to play the 5th seed instead of the 4th seed, maybe pick up a player who would help the 4th seed so you can get the better matchup next week, depending on where you are, guys. It's that there's nothing wrong, no shame in the game to block opponents or try and manipulate the outcome here as best you can. That's the best you can do. We never know what the outcome is going to be, but might as well get it as favorable as possible. All right, guys. With that being said, you can find our audio feeds on your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search Wingman the League on those platforms and we'll come to the top of your search. And when you find us, hit that follow button, rate us 5 stars, and go ahead and tell your friends about the show. That's how we get new listeners, so thank you for that. If you want to see our show, go to our YouTube page at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube or youtube.com/@ Wingman Fantasy Football. When you head over there, guys, do me that favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Let us know which running back tandem you like better. Do you like Vidal and Hampton, Tracy and Singletary, or Pacheco and Hunt? And with that being said, guys, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.